I can't believe this is the opening line of my interview with you, but we'll get to assisted suicide in a minute. The title of the show, Mary Kills People. That was the first thing I noticed about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very graphic. We don't typically call it killing people
Right.
when doctors assist people with dying. When you saw that title, did you have any concerns about it?
I thought it was very honest and very intriguing. It can be seen as her killing people depending on what side of the debate you're on.
Yeah.
She's certainly not on that side. I mean, she's doing this out of compassion. Things have happened in her early life that have led her to believe that people should have the choice. And that's why she's doing it. But she's also doing it for very personal reasons. I think she gets something out of it. It's a bit of a thrill because it's so cathartic for her, and this moment is so alive. And I think it's the same thing you feel when you go to a funeral, right? When you're so close to death, after that you feel so alive and energized, and you feel the need to appreciate the fact that you're here and that you're healthy. So I think she kind of gets that drug feeling out of it, right? So many people have asked me, is she a savior? Is she a killer? None of the above, I think. It's more complicated than that, and that's what I loved about her when I read the part.
I was going to ask because, like you say, that she gets this kind of drug-like high of feeling alive.
Feeling alive,
and,
yeah.
and I think you feel that way when you survive something too.
Exactly.
But in terms of that's what she got. What are you getting out of this role?
I get to play a lead in a 6-part episode, which I think is the best way to play a lead because more than that becomes very intense scheduling-wise. And I like to know that I have a life beyond my show that I love, but also I think I can bring a lot more when I'm healthy and I, when you go on for 10 months of 16-hour days, at some point you don't have anything to give anymore. So to me, it was a perfect, doing 6 or 10 or 13 episodes max, I think is the best way to go. Also for storytelling, because you don't drag on the subject matter. And you know what happens sometimes after a couple seasons, all the characters start dating each other, and it's like, come on. So I think we're going to avoid doing that by having a more condensed way of telling the story.
Yeah, there's not a Mary Goes to Hawaii episode.
Exactly.
And, they all go on Wheel of Fortune.
Although I would love that.
That'd be all right.
Yeah, let's pitch that to the writers.
I think Alex Trebek has it all figured out. I was reading the other day that Alex Trebek, I think he works like a month. Like all of Jeopardy happens in a month.
Really?
And then he's just off.
Wow. Yeah.
That's what you and I need to get on Jeopardy.
I did a series in Hawaii, though. I would love to go back there. And
you did a series in Hawaii?
Yeah, for ABC years ago called Off the Map. It was the most beautiful gift ever.
Is it fun is it
going
fun?
Surfing before going to work is amazing. Yes, of course.
Tell me about your character, Mary. Tell me about her, and why do you love her?
Because she's filled with contradictions and gray zones, and for actors, it's always fun to play. She's
a doctor.
Yeah, she's leading this double life because she's an ER doctor trying to save people by day, and then she's moonlighting as this angel of death by night or day, but whatever, to help people who have chosen to die because they're terminally ill to do so. So she's very interesting because this is happening illegally in her world because it takes place in a fictional city somewhere in North America. And the authors chose for it to be still illegal so that the plot, I guess, could be more interesting because since what she's doing is illegal, of course, she'll get in trouble for it. And she also can't really talk about what she's doing with her family, so it puts her in a very lonely position as well. She has this partner in crime that she works with called Des, who's a recovering addict and an ex-doctor as well. And they really only have each other because they can't really talk about what they're doing with anyone else. And they have this fun banter because there is humor in this show as well. And I think it's important to talk about that.
Well, that's what I find so fascinating because when I first watched this show, I thought it was a little like I started getting the feeling of Dexter.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever seen Dexter, but I started getting this feeling of someone, kind of camping out in their shed, and you open up this box, and I was thinking, oh my God, it's going to be blood slides. Like this is going to be this is going to be like a serial killer kind of show, and it's not.
No.
And it's kind of funny. Like so how do you strike that balance between telling something? I mean, there's almost nothing more serious than death.
Yeah.
And there's almost nothing more serious than assisted death.
Exactly.
But how do you strike that balance to still have some levity and some humor in there?
Well, I think when you talk about death, there has to be levity. So many times in funerals, I've seen people laugh, and uncontrollably because it's so dark. And after that, you go out in the world and you want to have sex and you want to laugh and you're realizing how lucky we are to be alive and healthy. So I think that's where the humor comes from in the show, and it was really important to have it because it could have been a depressing subject matter. As cathartic as it is, it needs to be light at times too, and it is. I think the authors have found that line.
This show comes at a very timely moment, especially in this country.
Yep.
Assisted suicide law just came into law
In June.
in Canada in June. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't mean to ask anything too personal. Is this something you've had to confront in your own life? Has this come up?
Not yet. It might happen. I mean, I think everyone can relate because a lot of people have, when I started talking about the show, people came to me with their stories
Really?
already. Yeah. A friend of mine, I have a doctor friend also who helps people also to die in dignity. And so she was saying how lonely it is at times because you can't really talk about what you've gone through with anyone. No one really understands until they have to go through that moment. So what was your question? I
mean,
was going somewhere with this.
No, we were talking about whether you had experienced anything like this
Yes.
personally. You
So
said
no,
no.
not yet, and I'm sure it'll happen someday. But I was already convinced. I mean, I deeply agree with Mary's way of seeing things. What's interesting, though, is on the show, other characters don't, and we're exploring every angle of that debate, I think.
And it is a debate. Like, what do you hope that audiences who are watching this, who either may oppose assisted death, or they may be pro, or they might more likely be somewhere in between. What do you hope they get out of watching this show?
I hope they get to reflect upon this debate because it's really healthy as a society to talk about things we don't agree on and to do it in a respectful way and really hear each other out. Because I think I'm not on social media. I hear all the hatred that comes from it. And unfortunately, I think it's lovely that we have more and more places to have debates, but let's have them in a more, I guess, respectful way as much as we can. And also, people who have not been confronted to this issue will get to know these characters and relate to them and feel for them and probably maybe get to think about this subject more deeply. Because it's interesting. We don't really spend too much time with that decision with pets, do we? Because we want to help them end the suffering. But when it becomes a human being's life, then it becomes a lot more complicated, reasonably so. But we have much more compassion sometimes for animals than we do for human beings,
Putting this show, the fact that it's not going to just air in Canada, it's going to air
in America as well on Lifetime, yep.
And all I could think was that it's going to have people are going to have a very different reaction to the show,
For sure.
no matter where they are.
Yep.
Yeah, is that something you considered?
Yeah, for sure. I knew it was provocative for some people, subject matter. I'm looking forward to those discussions. Of course, I wouldn't have seen myself join this beautiful adventure without knowing that the debates will come in interviews, and I'll be there. Yeah.
I'm Tom Power. You're listening to Q. I'm talking with Caroline Dhavernas, who's playing a doctor illegally assisting suicide in Mary Kills People. And we're talking a little bit about tackling is
That's
my
a
word,
great
by the
word.
way.
I love it.
That's when you are playing football and you try to hurt the person on the other team. I come after him, and I tackle him. This is my last show. You've been in this. You've been doing this for a while, since you were 8.
I have, yeah, for 30 years now.
30 years. How's it going?
I'm tired. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you already learned enough to know that 6 is enough. Like that seems to be perspective that only comes with 30 years in the business.
I'm lucky because I'm working in French and English in Canada and America and Quebec. I also did a few projects in Europe. So I never wanted it to become boring because this job is never supposed to be boring. So I made sure that I had different playgrounds and opportunities, and that's what I'm continuing to do. And I want to choose projects now that really deeply move me because, when you're in your 20s, you're kind of making it happen for yourself, and you're sometimes taking on things just to meet people. And now I don't feel the need to do that anymore. So I'm just in that lucky position where I can just read things and go, yeah, I'm responding to that, or no, I'd rather read a book.
Yeah, I got a buddy of mine who's an actor, and he says that currently where he is, and he's still a young actor, he says like I either have to love it, I have to love the people that are in it,
Yeah.
or it has to make me a crazy amount of money.
Exactly.
And I feel like those things though start to drop off as you go
They
along
do.
with your acting career.
They do, and you know, getting older too, your priorities change, and I want to spend time with my family, my friends. I want to spend time doing nothing, which I hadn't had the opportunity to do a lot because I've been working for a long time, traveling. So yeah, I want to find a happy medium between all that.
Well, congratulations on the show. It's really captivating.
Thank you.
I've only seen the first, and I'm just finding out now that there's only 6 is bumming me out already.
Really?
So I'm going to see if I can get you to do 22 next year.
Nope.
Not
But
gonna.
I'm hoping for a second season for sure, but not 22. Please no.
Caroline, thanks so much for talking to us.
You're welcome. Thank you.